Hey YouTube, this is your good buddy Fragments of Memory, aka the Armchair Philosopher. Um, by the time of this recording, all the issues with Trayvon Martin have been discussed ad nauseum here on YouTube. I just haven't had an opportunity to sort of upload any vids or make any vids around this time. But I think the Trayvon Martin situation was very tragic. And there's some people on YouTube saying, did Trayvon Martin provoke these attacks on himself? There's some that's saying, hey, this is a blatant racism. Now, I'm going to give you my take on it. It is tragic that if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, Trayvon Martin was a 16-year-old boy, 17-year-old boy. He was on his way to the store to get a bag of Skittles and some sweet tea from the corner store. Now, I've often done this, at nighttime. I'm bored sitting at home. I don't have nothing to do, or maybe I'm just feeling some cabin fever. I go down to the local convenience mart that's in my neighborhood, and I buy some snacks and I go home and I eat my snacks and I watch a little TV or I listen to the radio or whatever. Anyway, Trayvon was doing his thing. Trayvon was going to the store, and apparently this George Zimmerman guy was basically George Zimmerman was part of the neighborhood watch association for his block. Trayvon happened to live on the block. And according to the 911 call, George George Zimmerman was saying, "Hey, there's a suspicious character," and of course the operator's saying, "Okay, we'll check. We as the police will check it out. Don't don't follow him." So this man followed him, and of course he shot Trayvon Martin. And there's been many reactions calling for the death of George Zimmerman, to the whole racial thing, etc., etc. Now, as a kid myself, I grew up. My mother told me at about the age of 12 or 13, and I've probably said this a lot on YouTube. My mother said, "My son, you have one strike against you. You are black." She never said this to my sister, a black female. She told this to me as a black male. And she said, "Be careful because many are already paranoid of black youth." So, in stores, she'd warned me not to look too suspicious. And I've been someone that has been wrongfully stopped by law enforcement officers, and I don't think I would have been if I were a white person. But with that being said, I completely understand what this whole thing is about. It's just another example of, hey, you can kill a black person and it'd be all right in America, even though this was an innocent kid. Now, some say he may have looked guilty because of wearing a hoodie. Now, I've worn a hoodie because, it was cold outside and I wore a hoodie. I know a lot of people that wear hoodies. Many college students wear hoodies. But because it was Black Youth Plus hoodie, he was already profiled. So, my whole thing about the Trayvon thing, I think that this stuff was tragic. And unfortunately, there are many black youth that have been murdered and killed wrongfully simply because they fit a certain profile, or have been arrested and locked up simply because they fit the description. So to me, this is just another instance of racial profiling or ethnic profiling. And unfortunately, it wasn't even done by a law enforcement officer. This was done by a citizen. And whites aren't the only ones that have their biases against blacks in this country. I've noticed that many immigrants, when they come over to this country, seem to have a sort of paranoia and uneasiness when dealing with blacks, Asians, Arabs, etc., etc., etc. So, unfortunately, and these are the very same people that set up shop in your community and make money off of you, but they're afraid of you and think of you as a potential criminal. And I know why that is, but it still pisses me off when I hear about it. So, my 2 cents on the subject is just basically Trayvon. I do hope that there is justice for Trayvon, but I also want the justice for those other black youth that don't get the airtime and the FaceTime, that don't get to be seen, that don't get shown on the TV screen or are heard about on the radio. Maybe they're just a footnote in a newspaper article. Like, oh, they're not really important enough. They're like they're hidden in the newspaper. And most people just read the headlines anyway or what's on the news anyway. And how many news stories have there been of black youth that have been murdered wrongfully? It may not necessarily have been done by someone of another ethnicity. What about black on black crime? Why don't we address those things? Why does Trayvon get national attention? So on this Trayvon thing, I'm sort of torn. I'm torn. Well, just my 2 cents. You take it easy, folks. Take care.